10 powerful countries kicking out Americans in record numbers. In recent years, a quiet yet powerful trend has been unfolding across the globe. Several influential nations have begun expelling or denying residence to American citizens in increasing numbers. This surprising development stems from a complex mix of political tension, economic protectionism, immigration policy shifts, and changing global attitudes toward the United States. Today, on infoSphere, we dive into 10 powerful countries that are turning away American expats and travelers like never before. Buckle up, this global shift may surprise you. Number 10. Japan. Japan has long maintained strict immigration policies, but Americans were once among the more accepted foreign groups. That's changing. In an effort to preserve cultural integrity and promote local labor, the Japanese government is cracking down on long-term foreign residents. Americans in sectors like education, entertainment, and business are finding it harder to renew their visas or transition to permanent residency. Social isolation and rising nationalism also contribute to the unwelcoming environment. While Japan remains a dream destination for many, those who live there are increasingly being shown the door, gently but firmly. Whether through complex paperwork, social exclusion, or subtle pressure from employers and landlords, Americans are discovering that staying in Japan is no longer as simple as it once was. Number 9. Germany. Germany's relationship with the United States remains strategically important, but on the ground, Americans are facing increased challenges. In the wake of global political shifts, including controversies surrounding American foreign policy, German immigration authorities have become more meticulous and selective. Long-term visa renewals for Americans are being scrutinized more closely, and those unable to prove substantial contributions to the local economy or culture are being asked to leave. Furthermore, as Germany grapples with housing shortages and social integration issues, Americans are sometimes perceived as adding to the problem rather than solving it. The once easy path to a comfortable expat life in Germany is now riddled with obstacles, pushing many Americans out of the country. Number 8. South Africa. South Africa, once a favored destination for American expats and retirees, is no longer as hospitable. The government has tightened its immigration policies in response to rising unemployment and internal political pressure. Americans who previously held long-term visas are now facing non-renewal or outright cancellations, and work permits are harder than ever to obtain. The country's political climate has grown more hostile toward Western influence, with growing frustration over foreign ownership and cultural dominance. Americans are being swept up in this backlash, facing both legal and social pressure to leave. Even those who once integrated well into South African society are now finding it difficult to remain, as national priorities shift inward. Number 7. Brazil. Brazil has always been a magnet for adventure-seeking Americans, but recent changes in its political and immigration landscape are shifting that dynamic. The government has taken a more protectionist stance, tightening its immigration laws and focusing on job creation for locals. As a result, Americans are being denied work permits and even tourist extensions at rates that were unheard of a decade ago. Corruption and bureaucratic inefficiency also play a role, often turning the process of staying in Brazil into a legal nightmare. Combined with rising nationalism and anti-Western sentiment among parts of the population, Americans are increasingly finding themselves on the receiving end of deportation orders or forced to leave voluntarily before things escalate. Number 6. United Arab Emirates. The UAE, especially Dubai and Abu Dhabi, used to be hotspots for American professionals and entrepreneurs. But a subtle shift is underway. As the country attempts to diversify its economy and prioritize Emirati citizens, Americans are finding themselves edged out of job markets and residency privileges. New policies favor local hiring and impose stricter criteria for visa renewals, making it harder for Americans to maintain a long-term presence. There's also a growing intolerance for Western lifestyles and behaviors that clash with the country's conservative social codes. While the UAE still promotes itself as a global hub, it's increasingly clear that Americans are being pushed to the sidelines, whether through legal restrictions or cultural incompatibility. Number 5. India. India's booming economy and vibrant culture once attracted droves of American workers, students, and digital nomads. However, that welcome is now wearing thin. Amid rising nationalism and a shift toward self-reliance, the Indian government has implemented policies that prioritize locals over foreigners in many sectors. American citizens are finding it harder to obtain work permits, renew visas, or even extend tourist stays. Heightened scrutiny from immigration authorities and stricter enforcement of visa regulations have led to a wave of forced departures. At the same time, rising anti-Western sentiment among certain political factions has turned Americans into convenient scapegoats, prompting many to leave the country before they're pushed out. Number 4. Saudi Arabia. Despite decades of strategic alliance, Saudi Arabia has become a more difficult place for Americans to stay long-term. The kingdom is undergoing a period of intense nationalism under its current leadership, which is focused on reducing reliance on foreign labor and reshaping its global image. American workers, once sought after in sectors like oil, education, and defense, are being replaced by locals as part of economic reforms. At the same time, increasing restrictions on foreign behavior and growing surveillance have made life unbearable for many American residents. The cultural clash, paired with the risk of arbitrary detention or deportation for violating social norms, has driven many Americans out of the country and discouraged others from even entering. Number 3. Turkey. Turkey once welcomed American tourists and expats with open arms, but the political climate has changed dramatically. Under President Erdogan's increasingly authoritarian rule, the country has taken a hardline stance against perceived foreign meddling. American citizens have been caught in the crossfire of this shift, with cases of wrongful detention, cancelled visas, and unexplained deportations becoming more frequent. Anti-American rhetoric in the Turkish media has also played a role in souring public opinion, making it uncomfortable and often unsafe for Americans to remain. In response to domestic unrest and geopolitical power plays, Turkey is reshaping its population dynamics, and Americans are no longer seen as harmless guests. Number 2. Russia. Relations between the U.S. and Russia have deteriorated to their worst point since the Cold War, and Americans are increasingly feeling the fallout firsthand. In recent years, American residents in Russia have faced growing scrutiny from authorities, ranging from sudden visa denials to outright deportation. The Russian government's aggressive stance toward the West has fostered an environment where Americans are viewed with suspicion, sometimes accused of espionage or spreading Western ideology. Living in Russia as an American now often means navigating a minefield of bureaucracy and propaganda, where even minor infractions can lead to detention or forced removal. As the Kremlin continues to close ranks, Americans are finding themselves pushed out, both legally and socially. Number 1. China. Tensions between the United States and China have been simmering for years, but the divide has widened dramatically. American citizens are finding it increasingly difficult to live and work in China due to a combination of diplomatic friction and internal policies aimed at reducing foreign influence. From stricter visa policies to more aggressive surveillance of foreigners, Americans are being edged out of Chinese cities where they once enjoyed a degree of privilege. Beijing's push to boost national pride and self-reliance has made foreign residents, particularly those from the West, unwelcome. Many Americans who once thrived in China's booming cities are now packing up, often not by choice but due to government red tape and social pressure that makes it nearly impossible to remain. The global landscape is shifting, and with it, the once assumed privilege of American mobility is being challenged. Powerful nations around the world are tightening their borders, recalibrating their immigration policies, and rethinking the role of foreigners within their societies. For American citizens, this means a harsher reality where visas are harder to obtain, cultural acceptance is dwindling, and deportations are becoming more common. As geopolitics continue to evolve, this trend may only intensify. Stay informed, stay cautious, and remember, being an American passport holder no longer guarantees open arms.